This is the Halftime Show with Omar Al-Duri on Pulse 95.
Salam and welcome to the Halftime Show with Omar Al-Duri. I am your host, covering everything sport, international, local. Hope you're having a blessed day wherever you're tuned in around the world, whether it's 95 FM, Pulse95Radio.com, our app, Sharjah Broadcasting Authority, or even if you're chilling at home watching us live on YouTube. Thank you very much for connecting with us today, and I guarantee you the show is going to be on fire because Toby Harris is in the building today and we're talking all sorts of good stuff. Now on the show and in Reset, we normally talk about recovery, but it's often the pillar that we actually neglect. So how about this? How about I bring you a specialist that specializes in podiatry and lower limb medicine, a sports therapy specialist here to talk to us about the pillar that we often overlook. His holistic approach on recovery is what brought my attention to him, with the world currently highlighting the importance of working out and staying healthy. We discuss the power of recovery and what methods you can incorporate into your daily routine to get the best results possible. We're going to be talking about deep tissue, massage, acupuncture, trigger point therapy, and a whole lot more on the only place to be at 3, the Halftime Show on Pulse 95.
This is the Halftime Show with Omar Al-Duri on Pulse 95.
Yes, we are back. Welcome back to the Halftime Show with Omar Al-Duri. I'm your host, covering everything sport, international, local. Thank you very much for tuning in. You know what, guys? We speak about a lot here on the show. Just dropped my other, TikTokers. We speak a lot about here on the show about training and mental health and mental fitness and gut health and so many good things. But one of the things that, might have neglected for a couple of weeks now is recovery. And who better than Toby Harris to bring him here on the show? Let's give him a round of applause. There you go. Toby, how you doing?
Good, Omar. Thanks for having me. It's my first time on the radio, so honoured to be here as your guest.
Oh man, honestly, I'll tell you something about this guy. I've been speaking to this guy for a while now, and we've done this show about 4 times. we've chatted about recovery, health, fitness, well-being, and so many good things. So I know he's going to be terrific. Toby, recovery is probably one of the most overlooked pillars in goal setting. Why is that?
I think a lot of people, when they set their goals or they sit down with a program or they're trying to do it themselves, quite often I think if they take a step back to recover, or a day off or a rest day, and some people program in active recovery too, I think they think that they're maybe not going to go forward. If you've planned something in and you have a goal, you feel like you need to do everything you can to get there. And taking a rest day or a rest week, or some trainers call it a deloading week, some people, they don't see the results because you've taken a step back from maybe the intensity. And I think people, they're scared that they're going to lose the gains that they've made. But also I think there's just a general lack of knowledge as well. You know about training, or you see people lifting weights to get strong and big in the body that they want, but you don't see, there's nothing cool or exciting or interesting about stretching often, or getting a bit of massage, things like that. So I think it's overlooked because people don't know enough about it, and maybe they're scared that they're not going to get to where they want to go. Absolutely. In the time scale that they want to be there.
Absolutely. And there's so many ways to recover, and I know you deal with so many athletes from all around the world in different types of sports. When it comes down to recover, what are the ways you recommend to recover for different types of athletes, or even just gym enthusiasts?
So recovery can be broken down into so many different ways, and it includes making sure that you get enough sleep, making sure that you're eating and refueling your body properly, making sure that you're diversifying and changing your training so that it's specific to your sport or the things that you want to do. Loads of people ask me what's important about, or what should I do to avoid pain after training, or to avoid an injury, or I've got an ache or a niggle. And it's about working around those things so that people can continue to train, I think is important, or continue to do things without taking a step back on their training, which, like we just spoke about, people are scared maybe to do active recovery or some kind of therapy because they think they're going to lose their gains. So sleep, food, and accessory work, I think things that complement what your overall goal is, aside from your specific training, is really going to help.
Yeah, and there are several things that we often hear about. I'm going to shoot them your way and let me know the importance of them. Deep tissue. Now, when it comes down to massage, there's different forms of massage. How important is getting a deep tissue massage to be able to sustain your goals?
So massage is super important because it's going to essentially reset your muscles. All right. So when you get massage, say, for example, you're a bit achy, you're a bit stiff, you're a bit sore. Instantly that massage is going to help you relax. It's going to help the muscles recover. It's going to stimulate blood flow. It's going to push toxins and bad things, the byproducts of exercise that are sitting inside the cells and inside the muscle. It's going to push them out and help the body recover. So a deep tissue massage, super important. One, it's going to make you feel good. People like massages. Two, usually instantly as soon as you stand up you feel a benefit, and it helps with that recovery process as well.
Yeah, and it's interesting you say that, because amongst those things there's a couple of other things. Cupping. What about cupping? What's this secret about cupping that gets people to come back?
So cupping's really interesting because it's actually come about loads on social media recently, and some of you might have seen The Rock posted a picture about him getting cupping for the first time recently, and that's sparked a huge interest in it too. Cupping's essentially, it's an ancient sort of Chinese medicine. It's like an additional type of medicine, but what it does is it acts as a suction. So if for those of you that are listening that don't know what cupping is when you take a physical cup. They used to be ceramic, but now often they're plastic. You put them on the skin above a muscle that's tight or injured, and create a suction through it. And there's two different types of cupping. One is wet, one is dry. I often use dry cupping, which is creating essentially a vacuum within the cup. What that cup does is it sucks blood into the area. And you guys might have seen people with cupping done because they get these circular bruises all over their body. So essentially what these circular bruises are is the cups, wherever they're placed, they suck blood into the area. So you're getting more blood, more oxygen, more nutrients into that area. So it helps with your recovery. It helps by pulling out the toxins and the byproducts from the cells. It helps those cells regenerate, rejuvenate. And when you put a cup on the skin, you can see it physically sucks up into the cup. It's physically stretching the fascia and the other tissue around the muscle. And then when you relieve it or take it off, it's a natural release of the muscle too. So there's lots of theories as to how cupping can help, and is coming more and more into the public eye, I think, because of how visual it is, and people love posting that kind of stuff on their social media. Yeah,
absolutely. And the other thing, just before we go into the break, is acupuncture. Now, again, we've seen acupuncture, we've seen dry needling, all sorts of different things. What are the benefits of that?
So there are points all over the body that are pressure points, and everybody's heard the term pressure points. Essentially, they're areas of the body where there is additional tension within the muscle, and quite often it's believed, again, acupuncture is another sort of Chinese medicine, that there are certain points on the body where when you push them or give them the pressure, that it relieves ailments and issues elsewhere in the body. And lots of people use acupuncture for all kinds of things, helping them with their sleep, helping relieve stress. People use it for weight loss. I like it for releasing muscle tension. For me, in my field, working with athletes and working with people that are putting their bodies through a lot of strain and stress, putting acupuncture needles into the right areas, using them in the right ways, are, in my experience, very effective at relaxing, releasing muscles, tight muscles.
Fantastic. And there you have it, folks. That's just segment one. I told you it was going to be good. And shout out to everyone who's tuned in on Instagram and also on TikTok. Dali, Sufyan, Muhammad, you've got Mustafa, you've got Laith, Goran, Almas, Haida, Maria, the other Mustafa, and Nina, Farhat as well, and Shakib and everyone else. Thank you very much. And Almas as well. Thank you very much for tuning in. Stay tuned for more, because we're going really, really into it now on the Recovery Factor, on the only place to be at 3, the halftime show on Pulse 95.
This is the halftime show with Omar Al-Duri on Pulse 95.
We are back. Welcome back to the halftime show with Omar Al-Duri. We got some wicked questions during the break with Toby Harris, my guest today, talking about recovery. Actually, one of the things that a lot of us probably surpass, and we don't really spend as much time recovering. And I'm one of those people that probably has been guilty of that in the past, and even more now has been brought to my attention following publishing Reset, that it is such an important domino in our lifestyle, especially when it comes down to longevity. Toby, some really good questions in the break, and a lot of people talking about active recovery. You might have triggered that word off when you said that in the first segment. And Mustafa was saying, can we know more about active recovery? What would be considered for active recovery?
So active recovery is when you may have a rest day, or you have a rest period between reps or the activity that you're doing, but it's essentially when you're doing something and not just being sedentary and sitting down. So active recovery could be a swim, could be a walk, could be a jog. For example, I used to be a sprinter, and in between our reps, instead of just sitting and allowing the muscles to fill with lactic acid and for our legs to get heavy, we would jog between our reps because it's keeping the blood flow circulating, it's keeping the heart pumping, the heart doesn't drop too much, so you don't have to increase it again. So that's short-term active recovery within a session. Could be a small jog or a walk rather than sitting down and taking a break. Like say you're doing rolling subs in a football game or what have you. Instead of sitting down, you want to stand up, move around, keep things moving, keep the blood pumping, and that's going to help just stop some of the byproducts of exercise sitting within the muscles. In terms of training through the week, having a rest day is real important, and active recovery is maybe going out for a cycle or jumping into the sea. We're lucky here in the UAE, we can go swimming in the sea, and that can be our active recovery. So it's doing something that's going to keep your body moving, keep things ticking over, keep the muscles working rather than just sitting sedentary and getting stuck, getting sticky. It just helps keep your body alive. Yeah,
because Almas was asking as well, she's like, active recovery for footballers specifically, while Mustafa was talking about boxers. She's like, I always feel like I'm doing too much or not enough. How do you get the right balance when it comes to active recovery?
So it goes from person to person, from sport to sport. I don't know an awful lot about the physiology between male and female athletes, but women need different recovery from men also. So that's something interesting that I'm going to go away and look up. But sport specific, for example, say you're a soccer player and you're playing football a lot and you're doing a lot of running. Maybe going and running a 5 or a 10K is not the best thing for your active recovery because you're continually pounding the joints. You do a lot of running during your soccer training. Maybe your active recovery could be something else, a walk or a cycle or a swim, something that moves the muscles and uses the muscle in a slightly different way. So when you're doing specific training, you're quite often moving your body in a certain rhythm or a certain movement, and it's good for the body, the joints, the muscles, the ligamentures, everything, to add some additional movements in there so that it helps with the support system around them, I guess. So doing something a little different.
Is it as much mental as it is physical, the active recovery stage?
Yeah. How many people listening actually do an active recovery session where they get up and go for a jog when it's not a training day, or they actually think, you know what, I'm going to sit on my foam roller and I'm going to use it, or I'm going to pick up that massage gun that I have and pound it into my leg? How many of you guys listening actually do that? And if you're sitting there thinking, oh, I can see it over there but I'm not using it, maybe it's because you don't have the knowledge, so you're unsure, so you don't want to do it, or it's time consuming and it's boring and maybe you don't see a result. So I think just trying it, get on your foam roller and see how you feel, stretch, see how you feel, go for a walk or a jog today, and see how you feel. You're going to feel better afterwards.
Hey, there's the question, 4215 Ittasalat or slide into my DMs at Omar Al-Duri and tell me how many of you guys at home do have, let's say, a massage gun or do have a foam roller lying around that probably has a bit of dust on it. Be honest and let me know, and then we'll actually go over that in the show. Maria asks, do different athletes require different recovery?
Yes. So, for example, you are an athlete if you play lawn bowls, where you're rolling your balls across the grass to get them close to the target, and then you're an athlete if you're an Ironman. Those recoveries from those two activities are going to be different, right? Because they are different activities. They're physically demanding on the body in different ways, and some are mental, and some are physical. So different sports people require different types of recovery, and whatever that might be depends on the type of person you are, your mindset, your age, whether you've had any injuries or any issues before, whether you're training for an event. Your recovery is going to be different from whether or not you're just maintenance training. So it depends on the athlete's journey, but recovery is different. There's no set thing for everyone to do the same.
And Almas actually raises a good point. I think this is what she means. She's like, he is referring to low impact exercises. Does active recovery normally have to be quite low impact?
If you're doing anything higher impact, higher intensity, typically you're not recovering. So when your heart rate gets to a certain level, and you're working at a high intensity or a high rate, you start to kick in your CNS, your central nervous system. So, and that works the body real hard. Things start to fry a little bit if you're working into that high level zone. So if your active recovery is pushing your body back into that zone, even if you're doing a different activity, you're not really resting and recovering. So you're typically active recovery. The key's in the word recovery.
Yeah.
To recover, you're taking it easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So your activity is going to be slightly less demanding on the body than your intensity training.
And a lot of the times, the reason why people do start to feel that they might need to give themselves time to recover is because scar tissue plays a big role in the way our body functions. What is it about scar tissue that you need to focus on to be able to prevent injury?
Okay, it's a good question. So let's talk about what scar tissue is. Essentially, it's everybody knows what a knot is in their muscle, or they feel a knot behind their shoulder blades, or they feel a knot in their calf, or they've got a tight area. It's an area of muscle that's been damaged through whatever reason, whether it's trauma or impact or activity. And these cells are recovering, or they've been damaged to a point where they're unable to recover as effectively as some of the cells around them in the muscle or in the tendon.
Yeah.
And then when you continue to do the activity, those cells that haven't recovered properly, they're not as flexible or as able to perform the activity as the other tissue around it.
Yeah.
So then they don't work properly, they start to get a little bit tight, and that's where the muscle is the knot is formed. Or if you have an issue or an injury, like you pull your hamstring when you're sprinting, and then it recovers, but as it recovers, all the cells and all the tissues are not recovering fully. You end up with sort of lumpy, bumpy areas in the muscle that you can feel, and a lot of people refer to them as knots. So that's sort of scar tissue. It's basically damage to the muscle. When you go to do your activity at high intensity and you need the flexibility from the muscle, the scar tissued areas don't have the same flexibility, the same elasticity as the tissue around it.
Yeah.
So that will then, if you go to push on it, can create injuries within that muscle further. So to break down scar tissue is often a painful process, and I think somebody asked the question earlier or said that sports massage is painful.
Yeah.
So sports massage, for example, is a great way, or deep tissue massage, to get rid of scar tissue, because you're breaking down the muscle, you're breaking down the fascia, you're breaking down the cells that are damaged, getting the blood flow in there to help them recover. Needling as well is something that people use to help break down that hardened scar tissue, the non-repaired cells, to make them looser, to get the blood in there, so that when you go back to your activity, they're at a position where they can stretch the way that the other tissue around it needs to do your activity.
Yeah, fantastic. Love it. Almas is adding to that and saying, I started to take recovery seriously after Coach Omar said I walked like an old lady after reset sessions. Almas is 13. Well done, Almas. Right, the big debate that we're going to be talking about next is ice versus heat. And we hear that all the time in the fitness industry. So you're going to have to stay tuned for more on the only place to be at 3, the Halftime Show on Pulse 95.
This is the Halftime Show with Omar Al-Duri on Pulse 95.
Sure is that time. It's the Halftime Show with Omar Al-Duri, your boy, your host, and your friend on Pulse 95 Radio, the heart of Sharjah. Thank you very much for tuning in with me today. I've had just as much fun off air than I have on air as well, which is great. And I've got Toby Harris in the building today with me, talking all sorts of great things regarding recovery. Right, okay, Toby, let's get straight into it. So recovery is something that we hear about all the time. And when we hear about recovery, there are so many different things. But one of the things that is probably trending is ice versus heat, and when is the right time to use it. Firstly, what are the benefits of ice versus heat?
So they can often be used together. So you can have hot-cold therapy, or they can be used separately and independently of one another. They have a different way of affecting the body or the muscles. So if you have a new or acute issue, typically you want to use ice. Say, for example, you sprain your ankle, or you have a tendinitis, like an inflammation of a tendon in a muscle. Ice is going to help get rid of or reduce some of that inflammation. So ice is going to restrict the blood flow to that area and just make things contract a little bit or constrict a little bit, and reduce the buildup of that inflammation that can then further damage the muscle and give you the pain. And also, everybody knows when you put ice against the skin or what have you, that coldness is going to create sort of numbness. That's going to help again with relieving your pain. Heat, typically if you have a long-standing, so more chronic type condition, heat's going to help. The way that works is it's going to warm up and relax the muscle. And when you put let's say you put a heat pack on or a hot water bottle on a muscle or a body part and then take it away, typically it's red because the blood flow has rushed in there to go to the warmth. And what that new blood flow is going to do, or that increased blood flow, is going to help with the cell recovery and with the muscle recovery. So they're same but different. And I noticed that, or I mentioned that hot and cold are also used together as well.
I was going to ask you.
Like contrast therapy. And actually my friends went somewhere this morning where they were jumping from a cold bath to a hot bath and a cold bath to a hot bath to get that contrast.
What's the benefits of that?
So what that does is it really stimulates the blood flow. It's kind of making the vessels within the body self-pump. So when you jump in the cold, everything contracts, it gets real tight. And then when you go into the warmth, everything really opens again. So it's bringing the blood flow in and then restricting it, bringing the blood flow in, then restricting it. And it creates a stimulus within the body that helps with recovery. And also typically with cold as well, there's a lot of cryotherapy stuff going on at the moment where it helps you feel younger. It helps with hair growth, nail growth, betters your sleep, that kind of thing, because of the way that it shocks the body and the way that it helps sort of kickstart some of that blood flow in that recovery system within the body.
Yeah, very cool. I like that contrast. You said contrast therapy?
Yeah, contrast therapy, hot-cold therapy.
Very cool. And I was going to ask you, when is the right time to use ice for recovery?
Good question. Lots of people like to use it pretty much directly after activity. I used to play a lot of rugby, and there would be ice baths ready to go in the changing rooms after we'd played rugby. So we would do our high intensity activity. We're hot, we're sweaty, our muscles are tired, they're fatigued. We're going to jump in the ice bath to reduce some of that inflammation that's gone on within the muscles, because we've pushed things through a pretty strenuous bit of activity. By jumping in the ice bath, the goal is that when you come out of that, not only do you feel a bit more sort of rejuvenated having done that, but we're reducing some of the inflammation that's going to happen within the muscles that we've just worked, and that's going to help with reduction in pain over the following days. Also, the ice baths... Oh, I've lost my trail of thought.
So, actually, what I was going to ask you is, you tell me about the right time to use ice and straight after the activity, but when is the right time to use heat?
The right time to use heat, again, another good question. Typically, like I touched on earlier, if you've had a long-standing condition, like you have a problem, say, for example, you have a shoulder issue and you're going to go into the gym and pump your chest and pump your shoulders or your arms, getting a good warm-up in on that area. So if you have a condition or an injury or an issue already, getting some heat into that area so that it's a little bit more supple, there's a little bit more blood flow in there already to help you perform that activity, that's when it's going to help. So you might want to, we all know what a warm-up is. Say you've got a stiff back and you're going to go play football, you want to do a good warm-up, heat that area up before you get started.
Yeah, I like that. That's really cool. Do specific sports require either ice or heat when it comes down to recovery?
In my experience, no, it's not specific necessarily to the sport, but maybe the activity that person has been doing, they might be, and the issues or injuries that they have, they might be best suited to warmth as opposed to cold, or vice versa. I personally like ice baths. For my recovery after I've done activity. But I also know if I'm feeling a little bit achy, a little bit stiff, maybe on my off day, for my recovery, I'll go to the sauna. Because it's going to heat me up, it's going to make me sweat, it's going to make me feel nice and relaxed and loose, and I can stretch in there too. It's going to better that stretching. So I like a little bit of both. Yeah,
because I was trying to think of the contrasting things. You mentioned rugby earlier, and when you said rugby, I thought, oh, I definitely need ice for that. But then I was thinking of things like jiu-jitsu, for example, and I was thinking whether heat would be good for that.
So I don't do jiu-jitsu, I don't know a lot about it, but I know some people that do, and they're often talking about, I don't know, getting put into positions where they're in an arm bar or their knee is locked and twisted. If after that, because they're putting a joint all the way through an extreme range of movement, if after that you're a little bit sore, a little bit achy in some of those areas, ice is probably going to be best on those joints and on those areas to reduce the inflammation. On the flip side of that, you could look at warmth being something great because it's going to keep things soft and supple. You've just pulled something all the way into its extreme range of movement. Maybe you got put in a lock that's twisted your knee in a certain way. You could argue that the warmth is going to help keep everything around that and nice and soft, nice and supple. So when you go to do it again, you've got that range of movement.
Yeah, love that. Really good. Right, we've got one more segment coming up. Mustafa and who was to ask me? And Fahad, I'm going to ask you a question in An Almas. I'm going to ask you a question into him right after the break. I'm going to play you a tune and we'll be right back after this. Enjoy, folks.
This is the Halftime Show with Omar Al-Duri on Pulse 95.
Yes, we are back. You know what? This show's flown today, and we were talking about recovery. If you're just tuning in and kicking yourself for missing the show, don't worry, you can catch all our episodes on podcast, Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, or Origami, or if you prefer a visual, head over to the YouTube Pulse 95 radio channel. We got all of our guests on our shows there. On the halftime show, we've got mental health, gut health, and how important the brain is to the mind as exercise is to the body. Make sure you stay tuned for a lot of good stuff that's coming up this week. Right now, we've got Toby Harris on the show, and we've been talking about recovery. Toby, a few things here, a few questions our way. Almas asks, what's your opinion on hyperbaric chamber therapy? Good question. Well, I don't even know the answer to that.
I can't say it's not something that I am specialist in or I've done a lot of research in.
Yeah.
So I can't say I have much of an opinion. I love the idea and the concept of cryotherapy.
Yes.
So jumping into a chamber that's gonna shock the system cold.
Yes.
Hyperbaric chamber therapy. Honestly, I don't know enough about to be able to have an opinion.
Yeah, that's fair. And actually, sometimes it requires us to actually try something to really get the full gist of it. As much as we read about it, research it, or even kind of hear what our friends say about it on social media, that's kind of like the normal thing was, have you tried that out? No, I haven't. All right, let me go try it out. That's something that maybe both of us will look into. Maybe we'll go together actually and try it out. Mustafa was saying, and cryo chamber, which is exactly what he just said. And also, boxing. So Mustafa, you asked me about boxing and regarding, I think that was regarding what's best, ice or heat, and for a specific sport. We spoke about it earlier on the show. Does boxing, in your opinion, having dealt with UFC fighters, I've seen it on your page as well, do you find they respond better to different treatments?
Yes. Typically fighters, they love the hands-on treatment, the hands-on therapy, and they're used to receiving blows to the body. So the pain aspect of, say, a deep tissue massage or really forcing them into a stretch, they're used to that and they like it. Actually, I'm giving some therapy to a two-time world champion boxer that's in Dubai at the moment, training in a camp for a fight, and I'm going to ask him his preference in terms of this type of recovery, and I'm going to let you know, Omar, and then you can let the listeners know his opinion.
Is that Carl Frampton?
Yes.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it is.
Wicked. Well, actually, something else. You've been doing such wicked stuff and helping so many athletes. Where can we follow you? So
I'm fairly active on Instagram.
Yeah.
So I'm Toby_DXBSM. That's DXB like the city, SM. And DXB Sports Massage too.
Fantastic, amazing. And have you got anything coming up in terms of like initiatives or events that you're doing anytime soon?
Yeah, so I'm working on something at the moment with a hotel brand here in the UAE, where we're going to be introducing stretching, wellness, sort of reset and mental refocusing into a concept where you can arrive at the venue, you get a smoothie and breakfast, you get a yoga or a stretching session, you get access to the pool in the venues when you arrive. So you can normally walk into a breakfast anywhere and pay X amount and eat all you like. We're adding something in there where you can get your yoga class thrown in or a protein shake thrown in after a workout. So there's a couple of exciting things coming, and if you keep looking at my my social media channels like DXB Sports Massage, it will all be posted on there. You can see what's coming in the next few weeks.
Very cool. Listen, how was your first radio show?
It was fun. It's flown by. It's gone quick.
Yeah.
I was nervous before we got in, and I'm still a little bit sweaty and on the edge of my seat. But I've enjoyed it. It's been easy.
No, you were great, man. Thank you very much for coming on the show. Remember, guys, you can catch us every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday, and 3 to 4. And also, if you do like the content, we're on YouTube, Pulse 95 Radio. Head over there, share, like, and subscribe. We've got some fantastic guests here who actually add so much value, not just to the show, but to me as well. I get to learn something new, and selfishly, I always end up taking something back away from the show. Thank you very much, Toby, for coming on the show, man. You were fantastic.
Thank you, Omar. Thanks for having me.
All right, guys. So that is us for Saturday, but we will be back on Monday, 3 to 4, same time in the UAE, on the only place to be at 3, the halftime show on Pulse 95 Radio. Have a fantastic day, guys, and I will see you soon. Peace and love. All the best.
If you liked this episode of The Halftime Show, drop a like and subscribe.
95.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram for all our daily updates and top stories.